I'm Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar Today, and we're here today with John Vullo. And he has an extraordinary project. It's about Allan Holdsworth,
Mhm.
and an extraordinary project that you embarked upon 18 months, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
to put all
right.
this together. So tell us about the project. What exactly is it? And there's a bunch of them. You've done the chords, you've done the melody lines.
Mhm.
Tell us about your projects, if you will, on Allan Holdsworth.
Well, it's funny because even though no one really cares about me, I did this for myself.
Right.
It was like I said, I didn't go to school for music. A lot of this stuff, basically self-taught. I've had other friends that were really great musicians, so it's always things that I'm always doing these things to try to enrich my playing. And when I've had a extensive history of trying to understand and get into Alan. So once it started to click, and especially when he passed away, it gave me the impetus to say, all right, now I really want to tackle this. So as I started to learn some of his tunes, I said, hey, there's a lot of chords in here that are actually really cool that like I never thought of that seem really smart. So I said, I might be in this position where other people might not know this kind of stuff or think there's a big intimidation factor with Alan, where you think every tune has got 75,000 chords, they're all different. But I started to notice some similarities between them. I said, oh, he just has his own chord vocabulary like how we do. Like when we think of a D major, an open G major, we have our go-tos. But he has that too, but for his style. So I did all the things with the chords, and then I said, well, I want to kind of do this stuff for his improvisation, and it was the same thing. It started out with like just sort of the really weird outside lines kind of stuff, and then it started to just snowball. I found more patterns and really interesting stuff, and uh,
Can you demonstrate one or two or maybe three guitar chord shaped forms that are typical Allan stuff? Can you show us what you mean by that?
yeah, it's funny because a lot of people think like every chord could be really, really, really difficult.
Right.
Sometimes it's just as simple as like a C major with the B in the bass, something like that, or some sort of simple version of like some like minor 11 kind of thing.
Right.
But you have other ones, they're like really crazy ones. This one was in my book. This is like a major with an add sharp 11, and it's built 1 3 sharp 4, and then I'm sorry, it's the 11 sharp 11
Yeah.
would be here.
Yeah.
There it is. So like this is a very Allen chord. Sometimes you would see him playing once in a while. So you've got this like opposite of the chord actually is really easy. It's like something like like a 7 sus2, or you can have something that has this like ridiculous sort of stretch in it, like this minor 9.
Yeah.
So they all come.
He's known for the stretches. Definitely known for
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because if he was alive today, people have asked, if there's anything I would want to ask him, and it's like I don't know, because I feel like if I wanted to ask him something, I would know the answer, and one of them would be like, well, how would you approach the guitar if you didn't have those kind of hands to play all these weird chords? And then in my head, I hear him answering, going, well, I would just find another way.
right.
And that's what genius does. You would have either tuned the guitar differently or done something to get
Right.
his point across. So
Exactly.
yeah,
So the projects that you've done, you've done how many? I guess how many songs in the chord books?
Mhm.
Um, are they his tunes, or did you just make grips?
it's a chord chart. It's basically like Ted Green's chord chemistry, but
Right.
for Allan Holdsworth.
Okay.
So what I had done was I transcribed as many tunes as I could, especially ones that he played live, because like some of the stuff with the syntax, there's some overlays that like he's playing one thing and then adding another thing, so it's impossible to do.
Right.
So I try to get as many songs and tunes as I could, especially that have video of him playing, and I pretty much categorize all the different shapes that I found, and some of them I have like little check marks next to them saying like this is a very common voicing that Alan would use, and then other
Mhm.
ones maybe not so common. Like for example, the infamous Looking Glass chord. This one is only used in Looking Glass. But there's other ones like this major with the add 11 from House of Mirrors. He has used in a couple of different tunes. So I just I would categorize them so when people want to use them, they could have an idea of how to use them. So that would be like, let's say, a
So
one chord in your major
go
key.
go back to the House of Mirrors chord. What was
Yeah.
and then what is that chord? Tell us what
This
that
is a
is.
B major. Whoops. There we go. It's tricky to play, especially I don't have large hands.
Yeah.
So we've got a 1, the 5, and the 3. And then with my middle finger, I'm playing the E and the 11 on the top. So, like, harmonically, it's actually relatively simple. It's
Right.
just the voicing of it is really hard because you want both the 11 and the major third to ring out.
Right.
Elsewise, you could just play it something like, do something like that.
Right. Yeah, and obviously those are half step apart, and we all love that interval.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and he uses that a lot, and especially with flat nines.
in your best explanation, why does Allan Holdsworth matter?
I think for some people, it's because he approached the guitar in such a unique way, like no one else had done. But I think that's because from Allan himself, it was his just complete passion of wanting to be the best musician that he could be without like just doing it his way, whether it was figuring out the scales or chords. He did everything his way. And then once he started to develop these different techniques, he wrote things that were just uniquely him. I was saying this before in another interview. Like when I first started listening to Allan, I didn't get it because it sounded so weird to me. But once I got it, I fell in love with it because there's nothing like it. There's no one else that's combining these elements of modern classical music with the freedom of jazz improvisation, with sort of this metal or hard rock lead sound. But I think ultimately, it's just his unbridled passion and integrity for his art. And sometimes that was detrimental to his personal life.
Right.
But you can never take that away from the man. And something that just respected. He just demanded absolute perfection from himself and always wanted to give his audience, as limited as it may be, the most authentic version of him. And I think that really resonates with a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, I think.
What one or two albums would you recommend to somebody who has never heard Allan before,
Mm-hmm.
to give them a pretty good idea of what he's all about? Can you just make a suggestion?
Yeah, see, I'm in the Unreal Allan Holdsworth Facebook group, and there seems to be two camps: people that like the 70s Allan, and then people that like the later Allan. The 70s Allan, I don't know so much because he's a little bit more of a traditional guitar player in a way, where he's a side guy. I love Allan when he really came into his own.
Well, that's for everybody.
Yeah.
That's for everybody.
So
which records?
So I would say probably Wardenclyffe Tower has, for me, not only some of his best tunes, like his best harmony, but some of his best improvisation. And maybe 16 Men of Tame, because it's a little bit more of a straightforward jazz trio kind of thing, where you still get Allan's essence, but it's more of in a traditional way. Now he has another record where he plays over jazz standards, which is None Too Soon. That might just be for the novice, just to understand his playing. But if we want to talk about how he writes and how he thinks, 16 Men of Tame is like his, jazz trio version of himself. So that might be more appealing to some people.